It's kind of interesting thinking back on it, how I grew up as a big fan of the Paper Mario games, the original and the Thousand Year Door. But once the new ones came out, once Super Paper Mario released, once I played Color Splash, once I played like Origami King, I kind of just moved on, okay? Like I didn't obsess over the old games. I didn't beg for a comeback. I wasn't like, all the old ones were better. I was just, you know, excited to play the new Paper Mario games, And I have a lot of fond memories of playing those newer games, right? So much so, in fact, that when I saw that they were remaking the Thousand Year Door for the Nintendo Switch next year, my immediate thought was like, why? Like, and I kind of it kind of dawned on me, like, after all of this like back and forth between Paper Mario fans and like the Mario Mandate and the narratives like surrounding Tanabe and Intelligent Systems and the team and Miyamoto and like all this insanity over the past decade since the release of Sticker Star, which I'm sure this had roots in like Super Paper Mario's release as well, but like Sticker Star is where it got really bad. Uh, Looking back on all of this nonsense, I kind of realized watching this trailer how unenthusiastic I was that like I don't really think I like the Thousand Year Door anymore. And I do think a big part of that is because the audience, the fan base, overhypes this game. Like I don't think the Thousand Year Door is even that great of a Mario RPG. I think Paper Mario is better. I think Mario and Luigi 1, 3, and 4 are better. I think uh, I think a lot of the Paper Mario sequels improved on a lot of the aspects. Super Paper Mario probably has more creative environments and like no backtracking, more creative locales. Color Splash has the great music and the exploration. There are so many things to talk about that the sequel is improved on. Like the Thousand Year Door is a deeply flawed game that, because of a very specific reason, that this is the first RPG that a lot of people played, has this extreme like hardcore fan base that doesn't like to admit that this game is not as good as it's built up to be. And upon seeing this remake, seeing how disappointing it looks, seeing like the ter- the lack of a real visual upgrade, seeing like how it's just the same thing again with very minimal changes, like it's shocking to me because I genuinely like the Thousand Year Door more than Super Mario RPG. I think I am more enthusiastic for Mario RPG than this because Mario RPG actually looks as if it's like given a real visual upgrade and it's actually expanded on the gameplay. Made the models, fully, it's real. It's a real upgrade. Visually, gameplay wise, from like a design standpoint, you have more additional content. Like you have things about Super Mario RPG that are like clearly a blatant improvement, right? But when you look at the Thousand Year Door, when you look at like all the red flags, like when you look at it, it's just like it honestly looks like could. It honestly looks like the GameCube version looks better, right? It actually looks like the the environments look nicer, like they look cleaner, the animation is better, the like the game doesn't seem as if it handles the higher res well. And like it's remarkable. Like thinking back on it, like looking at this footage, I think Color Splash looks better than this. I think Origami King looks better than this. I think both of those games have like way bigger environments, way more things to do in those environments. And like the Thousand Year Door just seems like the same game again. The same game that was a massive downgrade from the original Paper Mario. Like seeing this, I was just like aghast by this. I'm seeing this footage and I'm just like, this is their big announcement. Like, really? This looks terrible. It really just baffled me that they would close a direct with like this lazy of a remake. Like almost like honestly, like I could tell there were like some NPC differences and some visual differences, but like I honestly wanted to call it a port, like not even a remaster. It was like a port, like that was so poorly coded, it was inferior to the GameCube original, right? Like I was like very close to just kind of like just really going after this game. I chose instead to talk about like the positive things of the direct because I liked most of everything we saw. Super Mario RPG, Another Code R, Unicorn Overlord, that looks awesome. Like there are so many positive things to say about the direct. Like I didn't want to dwell on like a disappointing final announcement, but the Thousand Year Door just doesn't do it for me anymore. Like I have played better RPGs. I have played better Mario games. I have played better remakes. I'm going through Advance Wars right now, right? Like Advance Wars, if nothing else, well, okay. Advance Wars added so much content. It has an online mode. It has like both of the first games like just condensed into a single cohesive experience. It has like an in-game shop. It has like all of this cool stuff, like real visual upgrades from the original, right? Like clear improvements over the originals in a lot of ways, right? You can argue that the character models look kind of goofy, but like I do miss the sprite work, but like when all is said and done, the original will be made available on NSO one of these days anyway. Like, I'm not too bummed out about that. If I want to experience the original, I'll just play the original. Like, I'll play the original when it gets re-released. So, I really, 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 really enjoyed Advance Wars. Right, like it is my favorite game to play right now. It is just a phenomenal experience. I'm so impressed with it. It really won me over. Well, I mean, I've always really liked it, but like, now that I'm spending time with it and like really getting into it, I'm really appreciating this as like one of the absolute best games of the year for sure. Like the Thousand Year Door looks like a complete train wreck in comparison. It looks like a complete disaster, and nobody wants to admit it. Like I'm seeing people like Demish come out and try to say that like, oh, this isn't just the best game on GameCube. It's one of the best games ever made, and I'm just like, really? Like, how many other RPGs have you played? Like, how many other Mario RPGs have we played? Like, we've already established that, like, people like Arlo don't even like playing Mario and Luigi because it's too hard, right? Like, Paper Mario fans are like something else. They are obnoxious little like just obsessed like fanboys, essentially. Like they are really unwilling to admit that like Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door has any flaws at all. Like I remember like when I played like the N64 one, which I prefer to this, like on NSO when it was re-released, and I was talking about like all of my problems with the game, like the pacing problems, the length, like um the level design of some areas, like I how easy the game was. Like there are things to complain about when it comes to these games, right? And like I still prefer the original game over the Thousand Year Door, but like I did find problems with it when I played it again recently. I with a thousand year door, like where are the criticisms? Where are like the critique? Like it reminds me a lot of how like I was of how like Super Mario RPG was treated growing up, right? Like so many people try to tell you this was like a monumental game and like this landmark title, one of the best games on the Super Nintendo, one of the best games ever made, like a real innovator when it comes to like Mario and like the IP and stuff like that. And then you actually play the game and it's just kind of mid, right? Like I wouldn't put that like anywhere near the same caliber game as Earthbound or Final Fantasy 6 or 5 or Dragon Quest 5, right? Or the Chrono Trigger or like the really even Chrono Trigger, which I don't like, is better than this. Like there are so many better SquareSoft RPGs on Super Nintendo than Super Mario RPG. Like what makes Super Mario RPG so special? Like the answer is that it's the first RPG that a lot of people played, right? Same with Golden Sun. Same with a lot of other like mid Nintendo games around that period that got like some kind of cult following. Like these people like didn't play anything like Paper Mario before, and as a result, it kind of set the standard. And they're not willing to admit that the game does have problems, that it is too easy, that it does have like a pacing problem, that like there are plenty of bad chapters, that there are just that the story isn't as good as it's built up to be, that like the game just isn't the masterpiece that so many people think it is. And I've talked about this. This seems to be a phenomenon that's mostly prevalent for GameCube babies. Like I don't understand this. Like so many people like put these games, GameCube era titles, on a pedestal, like F-Zero GX, Pikmin 2, Wave Race Blue Storm, Luigi's Mansion to an extent. I still like that game. Super Mario Sunshine. Like there are so many like games that like back then that were like just not all that impressive, not that good compared to like what was coming out around the same time from like other developers or from Nintendo itself. Like there are so many examples of titles like that are just like worshipped, right? Like I'm legit seeing people saying right now that they would rather have had a F-Zero GX remastered than like a new F-Zero 90, like the new F-Zero game that just came out, right? Like isn't that kind of insane? Like that's how deep the worship for these GameCube titles go, right? I've always been like rather critical of the GameCube babies, right? Like I've openly talked about like how they're delusional and how they just overhype this console, like that they probably are only fond of because it was the first console they were able to like buy games for themselves or something. Like that's the impression I get when like I talk to these people is that like they just overhype the GameCube so much that like the reality just doesn't really live up to like the legend of the GameCube. And I feel that that's true for the GameCube more than any other console. And to a certain extent, I think that extends to a lot of its games. I think Melee isn't nearly as high. I love Melee, but again, like when people call it like, oh, you don't need to play another Smash Bros. Game, I've always had a problem with that, right? You know, I liked Brawl, I liked 4, I liked Ultimate, right? Why would I like keep playing Melee forever, right? I like the new characters, I like the stages, I like the new features, the new modes. Like, Melee was great, but it's time to move on, right? And that's kind of my feeling towards Paper Mario right now, is that like instead of a remake, I think I would have preferred an entirely new game. Like, why are they putting out the Thousand Year Door now? Like, for the 20th anniversary? Like, who cares? Right? Like, it's just a GameCube game that sold like a million. Like, it's not that big of a deal, guys. This was an extremely disappointing announcement. I wasn't happy about it at all. Too many people are acting like this is some big epic win for Nintendo when in reality it's just like it's just another remake and not even like the most interesting looking remake in this direct. I'm so much more excited for like just compare it to another Code R. Like just compare it to like how Trace Memory looked back in the day to how it looks now and like see just what a good remake would look like. Look at Mario versus Donkey Kong. Look at Super Mario RPG. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door is so disappointing of a remake. It wasn't even the best Mario RPG remake shown in this Nintendo Direct. That's how terrible it was. That's how underwhelming it was. And not enough people are admitting that. Too many people are just have worshipped this game for too long that they have no idea what else is out there.